Despite so many Americans supportive of the measures
Powered by
above, gun
Riverside
violence
FM.
remains a major contributor to premature death and is a leading cause of death for people ages 1 to 44. The disproportionate impact of gun violence on younger individuals and certain communities highlights its importance as a public health problem. Welcome to Living Life in Color Again, the podcast for anyone who has lost a loved one to homicide. I'm your host, Kimberly Christopher. In the U.S., June is recognized as National Gun Violence Awareness Month. This campaign seeks to raise awareness about the issue of gun violence in the U.S. and encourage action to prevent it. Two things boggle my mind. One, the accessibility of semi automatic and military style weapons in the U.S., and two, the ease with which people seem to use them. Does one play a bigger role in gun violence than another? Today, we will examine perspectives on gun violence mitigation. There are two approaches used to address gun violence: supply side and demand side. A supply side approach focuses on reducing the availability of guns, while a demand side approach focuses on addressing the factors that lead individuals to use guns. Let's take a closer look at each approach. Supply side efforts focus on reducing the supply of guns, including illegal and legal ones, that can be used in violence. Strategies used include disrupting illegal gun markets by targeting trafficking and illegal acquisition, enforcing regulations on gun sales and preventing straw purchases. A straw purchase of a firearm occurs when someone buys a gun for another person, typically someone who is legally prohibited from owning it. Tracking and recovering guns to reduce the number available for illegal use. The goal of a supply side approach is to limit the number of guns in circulation, particularly those accessible to individuals who are likely to use them for violence. I submit that anyone is likely to use any gun for violence if they are motivated to do so. Demand side efforts focus on addressing the factors that drive individuals to seek out and use guns, often related to their motivations and circumstances. Strategies used include providing interventions and prevention programs for at-risk individuals, addressing underlying social and economic issues that may contribute to violence, and reducing the appeal of guns to those who might be tempted to use them. The demand side approach endeavors to reduce the likelihood that individuals will seek out and use guns, even if they are readily available. In essence, supply side strategies aim to make guns less accessible, while demand side strategies aim to reduce the reasons why people would want to use them. Many Americans believe that a comprehensive framework for mitigating gun violence should include a multi-pronged approach that combines preventive measures, interventions, and policies. This framework should address both the immediate impacts of gun violence and the underlying factors that contribute to it, as well as support victims and their communities. A 2023 nationally representative public opinion survey from researchers at the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions found broad agreement among Americans for gun violence prevention policies, regardless of their political affiliation and ownership of guns. 81% of Americans support prohibiting a person subject to a temporary domestic violence restraining order from having a gun for the duration of the order. 76% of Americans support allowing family members to ask the court to temporarily remove guns from a relative whom they believe is at risk of harming themselves or others. 72% of Americans support requiring a person to obtain a license from a local law enforcement agency before buying a gun. 72% of Americans support laws that require a person to lock up the guns in their home when not in use. 69% of Americans support funding community-based gun violence prevention programs that provide outreach, conflict mediation, and social support for people at high risk of gun violence. Several types of community violence intervention program models have been used to reduce gun violence through outreach by credible messengers to individuals at highest risk, mediation of disputes that could potentially lead to shootings, promotion of nonviolent responses to conflicts, assistance with social services, and life coaching. In Oakland, California, a community violence intervention program was associated with a citywide 32% reduction in shootings through 2017 that was concentrated in the areas and groups that were engaged by the program. Only 23% of Americans support allowing a person who can legally own a gun to carry a loaded, concealed handgun in public without having to obtain a concealed carry license. Despite so many Americans' support of the measures above, gun violence remains a major contributor to premature death and is a leading cause of death for people ages 1 to 44. The disproportionate impact of gun violence on younger individuals and certain communities highlights its importance as a public health problem. So, what can we do? One, learn more about solutions to gun violence that focus on prevention strategies that, if implemented broadly, would significantly reduce gun related death and injury. Two, tell your elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels to support legislation to reduce gun violence. Three, get curious about community violence intervention programs in your city. Ask how you can be involved, especially if you have lived experience that positions you as a credible messenger. I also recommend that you explore the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. Founded in 1974, they are the nation's oldest gun violence prevention organization. Their guiding principle is simple. We believe gun violence should be rare and abnormal. We pursue this goal through policy development, advocacy, community engagement, and effective training. Visit them online at actionnetwork.org. It is my belief that reducing gun violence requires commitment, concerted effort, changes in culture, and healthier views regarding power, retribution, winning, and subjugation. I hope that we can collectively indeed commit to doing the work so that gun violence is rare and abnormal. Before we close, I want to have a moment of silence for anyone who is mourning the recent death of a loved one to homicide, anyone observing the anniversary of a loved one's death, or navigating holidays and or the birthday of a departed loved one. May you find peace. May you find compassion. Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or iHeartRadio and share with your friends. Until next time.